Welcome to History Explained, where we illuminate the past to better understand our present. I'm your guide to your daily journey through the past to empower the future. Today is Friday, July 18, 2025. As we do every Friday, we're exploring a significant economic milestone that shaped the development of our modern financial system. Today, we turn our attention to the rise of capitalism, the economic system that gradually emerged from medieval feudalism to become the dominant form of economic organization worldwide. This transformation, spanning several centuries from the late Middle Ages through the Industrial Revolution, fundamentally altered how societies produce, distribute, and consume goods and services. What makes the rise of capitalism particularly significant is how it created new forms of wealth, social mobility, and economic opportunity while also generating unprecedented inequality and social disruption. This system has proven remarkably adaptable, evolving through various crises while continuing to drive innovation and economic growth. So let's explore this transformative economic development, examining the conditions that enabled capitalism's emergence, the key innovations that drove its growth, its impact on society and culture, and its continuing evolution in our contemporary world. The origins of capitalism can be traced to the gradual breakdown of medieval feudalism, a system based on agricultural production, personal loyalty, and rigid social hierarchies. Feudalism provided stability but limited economic growth and social mobility, creating conditions that would eventually give way to more dynamic economic arrangements. The revival of trade in medieval Europe, beginning around the 11th century, created new opportunities for profit and accumulation that challenged feudal restrictions. Italian city-states like Venice, Genoa, and Florence became centers of commerce, developing banking systems and business practices that would become foundations of capitalist enterprise. The growth of towns and cities provided venues for craft production and market exchange that operated outside feudal control. Urban merchants and artisans gained freedoms unavailable to rural peasants, including the right to own property, make contracts, and accumulate wealth independent of feudal lords. Banking innovations, particularly those developed in Italy during the 13th and 14th centuries, provided crucial infrastructure for capitalist development. The Medici Bank and other institutions created systems for credit, currency exchange, and international finance that enabled long-distance trade and investment. The Protestant Reformation, particularly Calvinist theology, provided cultural support for capitalist values by emphasizing hard work, thrift, and worldly success as signs of divine favor. Max Weber's famous thesis argued that Protestant ethics created psychological conditions favorable to capitalist accumulation and rational economic behavior. The age of exploration opened new markets and sources of wealth that accelerated capitalist development. Colonial trade brought precious metals, raw materials, and new consumer goods to Europe while creating opportunities for massive profits that could be reinvested in further economic expansion. Joint stock companies, like the Dutch East India Company and English East India Company, pioneered corporate forms of organization that allowed multiple investors to pool resources for large-scale ventures. These companies combined private capital with state support to dominate global trade networks. The Enclosure movement in England transformed agricultural production by converting common lands to private property, forcing peasants off the land and creating both a landless labor force and concentrated capital for investment. This process was crucial for creating the social conditions necessary for industrial capitalism. The scientific revolution and Enlightenment provided intellectual frameworks supporting capitalist development. Emphasis on rational inquiry, empirical observation, and technological innovation created cultural conditions favorable to entrepreneurship and economic experimentation. Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations, published in 1776, provided the first comprehensive theoretical framework for understanding capitalist economics. Smith's concepts of the invisible hand, division of labor, and free markets became foundational ideas for capitalist ideology and policy. The Industrial Revolution represented capitalism's most dramatic transformation, as new technologies enabled mass production and unprecedented economic growth. Steam power, textile machinery, and transportation innovations created opportunities for enormous profits while fundamentally altering work and social relationships. Factory production concentrated workers in industrial centers while separating ownership of production means from labor. This separation created distinct social classes of capitalists who owned factories and workers who sold their labor for wages, establishing the fundamental social relationship of industrial capitalism. Capital accumulation accelerated during industrialization as successful entrepreneurs reinvested profits in expanded production capacity. This process created positive feedback loops where successful businesses could grow rapidly while unsuccessful ones failed, leading to increasing concentration of economic power. The development of stock markets and corporate finance provided mechanisms for raising large amounts of capital needed for industrial investment. London's Stock Exchange, established in 1801, became a model for financial markets worldwide while enabling unprecedented mobilization of private savings for productive investment. Banking systems evolved to support industrial capitalism by providing credit for business expansion and facilitating transactions across growing economies. Central banks began emerging to stabilize monetary systems and support economic growth, though their roles remained limited compared to modern central banking. Transportation revolutions, including canals, railroads, and steamships, reduced costs and increased speed of moving goods and people. These improvements expanded markets while reducing transaction costs, enabling businesses to operate at larger scales and reach more customers. The social consequences of capitalism's rise were profound and often disruptive. Traditional craftsmen found their skills devalued by machine production, while factory workers faced dangerous working conditions, long hours, and economic insecurity unknown in agricultural societies. Urbanization accelerated as people moved from rural areas to industrial cities seeking employment. This migration created new forms of social organization while also generating problems like overcrowding, pollution, and social dislocation that would characterize industrial societies. Class consciousness developed as workers recognized their shared interests in opposition to capitalist employers. The emergence of labor unions, socialist political parties, and working-class culture reflected attempts to organize collective responses to capitalist exploitation and inequality. Women's roles changed significantly under capitalism as production moved from households to factories. While some women gained employment opportunities in textile mills and other industries, the ideology of separate spheres often confined middle-class women to domestic roles while working-class women faced double burdens of factory work and household responsibilities. Consumer culture began developing as mass production made goods more affordable and marketing techniques became more sophisticated. The emergence of department stores, advertising, and brand names created new forms of social identity based on consumption rather than traditional status markers. International trade expanded dramatically under capitalism as businesses sought new markets and sources of raw materials. This expansion often involved exploitation of colonial territories and indigenous peoples, demonstrating capitalism's tendency to create uneven development and global inequality. Financial crises became recurring features of capitalist economies as speculation, overproduction, and credit expansion created boom and bust cycles. The Panic of 1837, the Long Depression of the 1870s, and other financial crises revealed capitalism's inherent instability while spurring innovations in economic policy and regulation. The late 19th century saw the emergence of corporate capitalism as large corporations gained increasing dominance over economic activity. Trusts and monopolies concentrated economic power while raising concerns about democracy and competition that would influence progressive-era reforms. Labor movements gained strength during this period as workers organized strikes, unions, and political parties to challenge capitalist power. The 8-hour workday, workplace safety regulations, and social insurance programs emerged from struggles between labor and capital that continue today. Government's role in capitalist economies evolved throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries as societies grappled with capitalism's social consequences. Antitrust legislation, labor protection laws, and social welfare programs represented attempts to regulate capitalism while preserving its productive capabilities. The 20th century brought new forms of capitalism as governments took more active roles in economic management. The Great Depression demonstrated capitalism's vulnerability to systemic collapse while spurring innovations like Keynesian economics and the welfare state that modified but preserved capitalist institutions. World War II accelerated government involvement in capitalist economies as states mobilized resources for military production. This experience demonstrated that large-scale government intervention could coexist with private enterprise while achieving remarkable productive achievements. The post-war period saw the development of various forms of capitalism, from social democratic welfare states in Europe to more market-oriented systems in the United States. These variations demonstrated capitalism's adaptability while reflecting different cultural values and historical experiences. Globalization accelerated in the late 20th century as reduced transportation and communication costs enabled international production networks and financial flows. This development created new opportunities for profit while also generating increased inequality and cultural disruption. The rise of financial capitalism in recent decades has emphasized speculation and financial engineering over productive investment. This trend has generated enormous wealth for some while contributing to increased inequality and financial instability that culminated in the 2008 global financial crisis. Contemporary capitalism faces new challenges including environmental degradation, technological disruption, and growing inequality that threaten social stability and democratic governance. These challenges have spurred discussions about reforms or alternatives to traditional capitalist institutions. Digital technology is transforming capitalism by enabling new business models, changing work patterns, and creating platform economies that challenge traditional employment relationships. These developments raise questions about how capitalism will evolve in the digital age. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted both capitalism's strengths and weaknesses, demonstrating its capacity for rapid innovation while also revealing how market mechanisms can fail to address collective challenges like public health and economic security. Climate change represents perhaps capitalism's greatest contemporary challenge, as the system's emphasis on growth and profit maximization conflicts with environmental sustainability. This tension has generated interest in concepts like green capitalism and degrowth that attempt to reconcile economic and environmental goals. The rise of capitalism stands as one of history's most transformative economic developments, creating unprecedented wealth and opportunity while also generating inequality and instability that continue shaping contemporary societies. Its evolution from medieval trade to global financial capitalism demonstrates remarkable adaptability and persistence. Understanding capitalism's historical development helps illuminate both its achievements and limitations while providing insights for addressing contemporary challenges. As we face issues like inequality, environmental degradation, and technological disruption, capitalism's past evolution suggests both its capacity for adaptation and the importance of institutional reforms. The system's future remains uncertain as societies grapple with balancing economic efficiency with social equity and environmental sustainability. However, capitalism's historical resilience suggests it will continue evolving in response to new challenges and opportunities. Thank you for joining us for this exploration of capitalism's rise and evolution. Tomorrow, we'll be back with our Military History episode examining the 100 Years' War and its impact on medieval warfare and European political development. If you enjoyed this journey through history, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell. What aspects of capitalism's development do you find most important for understanding contemporary economic challenges? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, I'm your guide for History Explained, where we believe that understanding yesterday is the key to navigating tomorrow.